Man. Another sad ending if you're a Lakers fan. I'm not too sad, though, or too mad, per se, because I knew that as much of a possibility that we did have to win, we also had the same amount, if not more, of a chance to lose, just based off the fact that we don't have a center and we lack any type of depth. Like, that is absolutely insane. It's insane to think that we got the third seed without any of that, especially because our defense is so terrible. But yeah, even with all that, JJ's inexperience showed tonight. He's been great for the regular season, and I think a lot of people definitely miscalculated how good he would be. I didn't necessarily have a doubt on how good he would be, just based off of interviews I've seen, watching this podcast a little bit. I know that he's a brilliant basketball mind. So I knew that it wouldn't have been a detriment to have him as a coach. A lot of people were not on board with it. I don't really understand why, but hey. Though I didn't have any doubt with him about whether or not he would be a good coach, his inexperience did show up last night in Game 5. Particularly, the big glaring one is the fact that Rudy Gobert, I'm going to touch on this later, but Rudy Gobert put on a masterclass, which is so crazy to say. And I'm not even one of those people that's a big Rudy Gobert hater. He's definitely a Hall of Famer, 4-time, I believe, Defensive Player of the Year. He is great defensively, and I've raved to plenty of my friends and people who are more like casual fans of the game as to why he is such a good defender. He just gets caught in a lot of crazy situations. But the fact that this man put up 27 and 24, I think with like 27 points, 24 rebounds, and 2 blocks on like 15 to 18 shooting or something like that is so insane. Like, I can't. I'll touch on it later. But yeah, so the first glaring issue is that you see that their 7-foot center is going absolutely ballistics on us, and you decide to not even try our 7-footer. Now, I understand Jackson Hayes has not been the greatest in the series, and honestly, throughout the season, he hasn't been the greatest either. But it's like, you got to try something. That's the only thing. That's the thing with rosters, is that you have talent on your team that you're at least willing to try. Like, it would be one thing if you tried Jackson Hayes in Game 5 for like a small sample size, and then we can go look at it and be like, okay, well, he tried Jackson Hayes and it wasn't working. But you didn't even play him. And instead you're going to play Maxi Kleber, which is insane. Because that's the thing. I know the argument is going to be that, Jackson Hayes, he hasn't been the most effective in the series. He's a foul magnet. But clearly, if you're trying Maxi Kleber, who hasn't played basketball since January and is coming off of a broken foot, he's coming off of foot surgery, that shows that you're desperate. So if you're that desperate, why not just try the player we've already had playing for the whole season, who's, for the most part, healthy right now, who's way more athletic, and he's also 7 feet. Like, we can at least explore that, because you're letting their 7-footer go crazy on the rest of our team, and you're putting on these small ball lineups, which obviously we kind of don't have the personnel, right? But at the very least, you could try Jackson Hayes. Like, at the very least, when you see that Rudy Gobert is getting, I think he had maybe like 8. I think in total the Timberwolves had like 18 offensive rebounds. Rudy Gobert had at least 8 or 7 of those. That is absolutely insane. And again, that's not to say that Jackson Hayes is the Rudy Gobert stopper. He might not have been that much effective on defense, but at least he's a bigger body that can maybe at least afford to get a couple rebounds, has a better chance to box him out than Gabe Vincent or Vando or something. I just think you're not even trying to give LeBron and Luka a break, because it's like, even if we do play great defense, which there were some good defensive stretches in the game, it's like they immediately get canceled out because you have one player who's just bigger than everybody else on the floor, and he's grabbing all the rebounds. There was literally a play where I can't remember who shot it. Somebody shot it for the Timberwolves, bricked. Rudy Gobert grabbed the rebound. He passed it back out. We were playing good perimeter defense. They shot it again, bricked, and then Rudy Gobert got the offensive rebound again, and then he just went up for a dunk. And the fact that JJ decided, you know what, I'm not gonna put in my 7-footer. I'm gonna just let all these small guys get dominated on is so insane. It's so crazy. And my other thing is, I haven't heard this enough. You could have at least tried Alex Len. I know Alex Len is trash, but like, at least he's around the same height. He's a bigger body. He probably has a better chance to box out Rudy Gobert. You at least try him for 2 minutes. There's no way you can tell me you're willing to play Maxi Kleber for 5 minutes in a game, but you can't at least try Alex Len. Like that's all I'm saying in that regard. And honestly, I don't even know if that's inexperience from JJ or just stubbornness or a little bit of both. But he definitely should have tried to play one of our 7-footers. There's no way you don't at least try. And then what type of message is that sending to the rest of your bench where you're having this is kind of going to bleed into my second point about JJ's inexperience, but for Game 4, for the whole second half, you're having all 5 of our starters play the whole entire second half, didn't even give them a single break. And then in Game 5, you're not even going to try to put in our big men. Like, you're not showing any type of trust in our bench. You're not showing that you don't believe. Like, there's no way you're telling me that you don't believe that you've prepared your bench at the very least to play at least 2 to 3 minutes of basketball. Like Game 4, there's no reason why going into the fourth quarter with a 10 to 12 point lead that you don't trust some of your bench to play at least 2 to 3 minutes to give LeBron and Luka a break so they can come back in with some fresh legs, or at least fresher legs. So, they're still going to be relatively tired. But yeah, that's my other point, is that the not resting the guys is crazy. You're playing the same 5 to 7 guys, and then literally in Game 4, you did something that I believe it hasn't been done ever in the playoffs, or hasn't been done since like the 80s, where you played the whole entire starting 5 for the whole remainder of the second half. Insane. It's kind of one of those things where I really do like JJ's mind, basketball-wise, and I think he'll work on these things going into next season. But this is one of those things where I start to agree with the idea that analytics is kind of a detriment to the game in a way. I don't think it's fully a detriment. I think it's great to know where where players tend to get their shots, where they do well on the court, where they don't do well on the court, things of that nature. But when you try to play analytic ball too much, we see how the downfall of a roster can happen. Like, for example, I would say what year is this? Y'all know what the year is. When the Rockets played the Warriors, the 1 year, it was in the playoffs. Rockets played the Warriors. I believe it was Western Conference Finals. Chris Paul got hurt at some point. But so the next game after he got hurt, they could have still won the game. The Warriors weren't shooting that well. They went like didn't they go 0 for 32? I might have to check it. Okay, yeah, I was back in 2018. Wow. That is crazy, 2018. That's wild. But yeah, back in 2018, they missed 27 consecutive three-point shots. When there were so many opportunities where they could have went for mid-range jump shots, they could have went for layups, they were playing that analytic ball, and that analytic ball is doomed to fail you at some point. And that was JJ Redick in Game 4. And maybe it wasn't completely analytic hoops, but to some degree it was like, oh yeah, well, my guys are doing well. This is the lineup I trust, and I'm just keeping them in for the whole game. That's not a gamble that you take. I promise you that's not a gamble that you take. Another aspect to the analytic hoops that I think JJ he bought into way too early and kept relying on it way too much is the ISO Luka ball, man. He kept trying to rely on that ISO Luka ball, and I'm not saying it doesn't produce great outcomes. I'm not saying it doesn't. Luka's a fantastic player. He's one of my favorite players. I'm so glad he came to my favorite team. But you got to get the other guys involved. You got to try to run other type of plays, run different type of screen angles. Like, it really just showed it wasn't. I'm not gonna say it wasn't effective at all, because most of these games were winnable, and that's the thing I hate about losing the series is literally all the games that we lost were so winnable. Like, we were either in it at some point or we were up by like 10 at some point, but we were losing. I'm not gonna say completely on coaching, But it's like we should not be losing these games, these winnable games from a coaching standpoint. That's my only problem with JJ, was just that we could have won game 4, but you decided not to rest the players. And then they're going to go in the presser and be like, yeah, no, they weren't tired. They just missed some layups. Yeah, they missed layups because they were tired. They missed wide open threes because they didn't have no legs under them. I don't understand why he didn't see that. And then even in game 6, deciding not to try even play Jackson Hayes. Again, not saying he's a Rudy Gobert stopper. Not even saying they would have won the game. But it's like, you have to try something. You see that there's one big problem on the floor. His name is Rudy Gobert. You have to try something. Because quiet is kept. Not even quiet is kept. The T-Wolves did not shoot well this game. And that's the craziest part is Ant went 5 for 19 from the field, 0 for 11 from deep. Dante DiVincenzo went 3 for 13 from the field, 2 for 12 from deep. Nickeil Alexander-Walker went 3 for 11 from the field and 2 for 9 from deep. Like, if you can't win with a shooting performance like that, then I don't know what you can win, especially when you shoot better than that. Like, I don't know if you guys know, because you wouldn't really know it from watching the game, wouldn't feel like it, but the Lakers literally shot better from every point. From every point on the field. They had a better shooting percentage from the field. Lakers have 42.3% in comparison to 40.2. They were shot better from the 3, 29.7% in comparison to 14.9. That is insane to say. And then from the free throw line, 76% in comparison to 72.7. Like, if you can't win with the Timberwolves shooting like that and your team is literally shooting better, I don't know what to say. Like, I don't know what to say. And again, I can't stress anymore. The Timberwolves are clearly the better team on paper. They have way better depth. They have size, and they have athleticism. But we should not have lost these winnable games from a coaching perspective. Like, if the coaching was up to par and then we just lose because we lose, I can live with that. But it's like when you don't even try to make the adjustments, it's just irritating. And again, I hope this is something he can learn from. But like, it is crazy that we were literally in all of these games, and some of these games were even up. We were up in game 3. We were up in game 4. We were up in game 5. Like, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. We should not be losing from that perspective. And again, I am one of those delusional Laker fans, but kind of mostly as a joke, because I know we can tend to be annoying. But I actually like basketball. I actually like Tycoon hoops. Excuse me. And I can acknowledge when there are glaring issues on my team. And so I was rooting for my team, and I do believe, we were the 3rd seed for a reason. We have an adequate roster to some degree. We have a competent roster to some degree. So I knew that there was a possibility. There's always a possibility to win it all. But I also knew as much as a possibility that there was, that we also could lose it just because we don't have enough depth and we don't have a competent center. Which at the very least, if you're going to have subpar perimeter defense, you need a competent center. You can get by in the NBA with lackluster perimeter defense, but really, really like abnormally good rim protection. Or if you have abnormally good perimeter defense, but lackluster rim protection, but you cannot thrive with both lackluster perimeter defense and lackluster rim protection. That's just not going to work. Because literally, from positions 1 through 3 is pretty much cones. And I don't want to talk crap about my glorious king like that. But Luka's not playing defense that well. He's gotten some better defensive habits while on the Lakers, and he's also shown to be a decent off-ball defender. I don't know if off-ball defender is the right term, but helping defensively off-ball. But when he starts to get tired, he is super lousy in the off-ball department. He tries, I guess, on-ball. I don't know if it's a mixture of fatigue and a lack of athleticism, or if he just completely just doesn't have defensive awareness like that. But yeah, it's just he's not the greatest defender. I hope that he can fix that in the offseason. But at the 3 spot, we have LeBron. LeBron, crazy enough, is probably one of our better defenders, but he's also 40. Like, and I think people forget that he's 40. But irregardless of him being 40, sometimes he has great defensive effort in some spurts. Like in Game 4, when he had, I believe, a block on DiVincenzo, and then I think we went down and scored, and then he stripped. Did we score? I don't know if we scored, but I think the next play, when Minnesota was on offense, he then stripped Naz Reid, and I think that led to the 3 from Dorian Finney-Smith. But yeah, no. But LeBron, he has his moments where he's awful on defense. So if you're gonna have a roster that is predicated around your 3 main options who are great offensively and they're terrible defensively, you need to have good rim protection. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to have good rim protection. And I did mention 3 options. That does lead me to AR. I love AR. I love AR-15. But, man, was he awful in this series. That man was so terrible. And I don't want to crap on him too much, but I have to, man. He has to step it up next year. He was, 5 for 14 in Game 5 and shot 2 for 10 from deep. Like, he had like a good shot, I think, to bring us back in the game at some point, like a really long, not super long, but a pretty deep 3. But other than that, man, he just was not playing up to par. Not playing up to par. He only shot well in Game 3, and every other game after that was completely abysmal, especially last night. My next point is is about to have me cuss. I'm so sorry. But Rudy Gobert, man. Rudy Gobert, I just want to say, like I said, I'm not a big Rudy Gobert hater. I actually appreciate what he brings to the game. But Rudy Gobert having a post-game interview is actually so disgusting. That seeing that literally almost made me throw up in my mouth. I was I was so hurt that they really gave this man a post-game interview on primetime television. That is so crazy to me. 27 and 24 is crazy. Yeah, I've already talked about Rudy enough. Great game. That's all I can really say about that. But the other big man that I need to talk about that I really cannot stand, this irks me so much as well. I don't know why Mark Williams is talking crap about us. Like, one, because we wanted him. He didn't pass the physical. Now, I know the rumor is we just didn't take him or something. I don't know. Something happens, or maybe he knows. Maybe there's more to that than I know. But I don't know why he was talking smack like we didn't want him on the team. But that's neither here nor there. But I do want to talk about where the league is at now. I think that for me as a Laker fan and as a LeBron fan as well, you know, I was a sad Laker fan that we lost. You know, I'm never happy to see my team lose. But as a straight just hoops fan, hey man, this has been a great playoff so far, and I love Ant-Man, man. Like, he's one of my favorite players. I hope, honestly, Loki, I hope he goes all the way and wins it. I do really like Anthony Edwards. It's nice to see him get his praise as well and see him doing well in the league. So definitely love the young stars as a young guy myself. I mean, I'm a little older than him, but as a young guy myself, I love to see the young stars thriving and just really just hooping, man. You know, really just going out there and hooping. But yeah, I think we're entering a new era in the league of, well, specific for the Lakers, I don't really feel like other teams do this. Maybe New York kind of does this, but I was going to say an era of, like, not being able to buy your team anymore. But more so, we're going into an era of where the league is just so talented. Like, today's game is just so talented. You can no longer rely on a big 2 or, like, a big 3. Like, I think when going as far back as, you know, like the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, the 10s, the formula for the most part was, let me get one really good player, let me get another really good player, and then maybe we have a third option, and everybody else is just sort of on the team, right? That, and for the most part, it worked. But that, I just don't think is the formula anymore. I think you really have to aim to have the most all-around competent roster that you can possibly have. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't have there's still going to be a main player, or an alpha, as people like to say. I don't really like to use the term, but a main player, like a main two players that you count on. But the whole roster has to be competent. I mean, let's look at the Celtics last year. Jason Tatum really, for the most part, did not have a good series at all. And maybe at all is a little harsh, especially because I believe he had a triple-double one game and maybe like a 30-point game in another game. But for the most part, he didn't shoot all too well. But he played well enough. It was really his team, though. Like, Jaylen Brown went crazy. Derek White, Porzingis was doing well. Like, it was really the rest of the team that was just so stacked. And not even stacked from the point of view, like, it's not like a super team or nothing. It's just a really good, efficient team. Like, Jrue Holiday is an all-time great defender, and he can hit big shots when you need him to hit big shots. Porzingis hits big shots. Derek White, he's a fantastic piece to that team as well. Like, you are just putting yourself at such a large disadvantage by not focusing on your 6th to 9th man. Like, obviously, you have to worry about your starting five, right? Who's going to be your star and your second option, your third option. But it's really those others that you have to hone in on as well in today's game. And obviously, that probably should have been how teams should have been made from the get-go. But as we all know, literally from the inception of the NBA to, like I said, probably up to like the early 2000s to like the 10s, the formula was we get a big three, and then whoever else is there, like, is pretty much there, and we can win that way. But in today's game, I just think there's so much talent all across the board that you cannot win like that. I mean, even if we look at the Timberwolves, like, their depth is crazy. And even, like, throughout the series, Ant's been doing pretty well for the most part. Like, games 1 through 4, he's been shooting pretty well. I think game 2, he didn't shoot that great. But game 5, for sure, he shot horribly. But pretty much every other game he's been doing great. But we've been seeing these big games from all these other players as well. Julius Randle's had an amazing series, which shouldn't be like super unexpected, but it was a little shocking, a little surprising to some degree. Jaden McDaniels had a really good series for the most part. In some games he wasn't as effective, but he had that one game where he went out for like 30 plus. I can't remember exactly. I know it's 30. And then Randle had a great game in Game 5. And then, obviously, Rudy Gobert was leading. It was just crazy. Rudy Gobert leading in scoring is crazy. But, yeah, Rudy Gobert led in scoring. And, 24 rebounds, 2 blocks, and all that stuff. So, you really need a competent all-around roster. You for sure need your star and your second star. But you also need you need the other 3 players to be great. You need a competent center, and then you also need a competent bench who you can put in and they're going crazy. Every year, for the most part, for the last couple of years, it has shown that you need a team with some depth, some three-point shooters, and defense. Definitely defense, whether it be prioritizing perimeter defense or prioritizing rim protection. Ideally, you would want both, but if you had to choose one, you can choose one. Defense has to be good or solid for at least one of those two. So I hope that the Lakers front office and Rob Pelinka really take that into consideration, because we have always been we can buy our team type of team. Well, I mean, I guess you make the argument for the Showtime Lakers, where we did draft great pieces as well, namely James Worthy and Magic Johnson. But for the most part, we have always been okay, we got the money, we have the location, we can go buy our stars, right? But that is not how this is going to work in this era. You have to draft well. You have to make your trades well. And if you are going to trade, you really need to prioritize maximizing your stars with depth versus maximizing your stars with other stars. And that kind of leads me to my next point about Giannis, right? I'm not a delusional Laker fan. I mean, I didn't think we were going to get Luka either. So if we got Luka in the way that we got Luka, anything's possible. But I don't think we're going to be the main people to get Giannis this summer. But it also worries me. If we do have the potential to do that, it kind of worries me about doing that. Like, I don't want to trade just for another star. Maybe it works out potentially, and if that's the case, I'm all for winning a championship. And Giannis is one of my favorite players, so I would not hate to have Giannis on my team. But if it's going to come at the cost of gutting our depth, when we can maximize. I mean, LeBron, I don't know how much longer LeBron's going to be here. I'm assuming probably 1 or 2 more years. But we have Luka, we have LeBron. Let's try to maximize that. Get them a decent center, and then get some more defensive-oriented guys who are also very capable on offense. Because shout out to Vando, but we all know offensively is not the greatest. And I don't want to move on from him per se, but if we're going to have a bench come out, we need players who can defend and we need players who can score. We also need a backup center too, because that's the other thing. Even if we did get Giannis, we would still need a second center as a backup. And maybe that's Jackson Hayes, but I imagine we'd probably be packaging Jackson Hayes if we trade for Giannis, so I don't know about that one. But I'm slightly worried about the idea of focusing solely on LeBron, Luka, and Giannis and having little to no depth. Because as we've seen in previous years, that just hasn't really worked out for us. The most success we had was, I mean, obviously the bubble was controversial for some people, but we won in the bubble. And the main reason we won in the bubble is because we had depth. We had our 2 stars in Bron and AD, but we also had depth. And that depth helped us when, for example, actually this is a great tie-in. Jokic was going crazy. So what did we do with Jokic? We put in JaVale McGee and we put in Dwight Howard. And that is the benefit to having a deep roster. So when you're starter, you might have one starter that's not working out. You can swap him out with somebody in your bench, and maybe that's a better fit. So that's why JJ should have tried somebody else in that instance. But it is what it is now. But in terms of centers, what I would like to see if we do a trade, or I don't know if some of these guys would have to trade for, or if they're going to be free agents. I'm pretty sure we're going to have to trade for them. But Miles Turner is always on the board. Even if he is a free agent, I don't see him wanting to leave Indiana, but you never know, especially if they don't go far in the playoffs this year. You never know. We'll see. But, yeah, Miles Turner's on the board. He offers, rim protection, rebounding, spacing, of course, which is important. So he would be an asset. I think Nicholas Claxton is a great option. If we can get Nicholas Claxton, he's young. He's great defensively on the perimeter and just rim protection-wise. He's a lob threat, which is something this team needs for sure. A big specifically, that can set screens for Bron and Luka and even Austin Reeves and roll hard to the basket, man. It'll really open up our offense. I think another player who I think is a long shot, but I feel like would be a valuable asset to our team. But the only thing is that he's a little bit on the smaller side. I think Bam Adebayo would be a good addition as well. He's been shooting 3-ball a little bit recently, so he offers some spacing, rebounding, defense, obviously. I think he'd be a great addition, but again, I don't know how realistic that is. Y'all guys can look that up or look into that if you want to. But at the very least, Miles Turner and Nick Claxton for sure are people that we should try to target in the offseason. The other thing that I'm not necessarily, I don't know if I'm hopeful about, but I hope Luka got to work on his conditioning. And I don't think he's fat or nothing like people were trying to say. I honestly don't even think he's 270, but he definitely needs to work on conditioning just to get that stamina up a little bit so he's not super, super tired. He can at least put a little bit more effort into the defense. I feel like he also needs to work on some defensive drills as well. Just on habits, on decision-making. He could do better in that department. But again, I'm not expecting him to be some defensive powerhouse. But I just feel like he's way too big to not be better than what he currently is at defense. And like I said, if we had a competent center, I'm not going to say it wouldn't matter at all, but at the very least he can push somebody. Because when you're not a great perimeter defender, at the very least what you can do is when they try to when they try to attack you from the offensive end, is you can at least push somebody one direction so that they can go into your shot blocker. So you're negating the possible shots that they have at the rim at the very least. If you're not going to stay in front of them, at the very least you could lead them into our shot blocker. But we don't have that option, but hopefully we'll have that option come next year. So yeah, hopefully we make those changes. I would love to see, I would love to see Chip 18 for the gold and purple, you know what I'm saying? Especially for my guy Brian, man. I would love to see him win one more before he gets out of here. Pretty soon he's going to have to make way for the young talent, man. The league's in a great place. The young talent that we have is super, super exciting to watch, super entertaining. We're only going to keep getting more young talent in. I think the league is currently seeing the most parity that we have ever seen. Irregardless of whatever lies people be telling you about parity, there was no parity back then. The Celtics have 18 chips. The Lakers have 7. The Chicago Bulls have 6. And then now every other team has some here and there. And then there's still like probably like 4 teams that don't have a ring yet. Yeah, man. In the past like 5 years, we've seen the Lakers win it in 2020, then the Bucks won it in 2021, 2022 was the Golden State Warriors, 23 was the Nuggets, and then last year was the Celtics. I believe that should be correct off the top of my head. But, yeah, the league is seeing the most parity that we've seen in a long, long time, maybe even ever. We done with the 90s type. We done with the 90s type. Now, let me chill. But I like to get my agendas off. I'm sorry. I really do like to get my agendas off. But yeah, man, Ant-Man is really him. He's one of the best players in this league. He's really bringing back that 2-guard role, especially. I feel like it hasn't been the strongest position really for like the last couple of years, to be honest. So it's nice to see the resurgence of that position a little bit. And what he's doing for the Wolves and what he's doing for the league, man, is really good. So next, they should be going up against the Golden State Warriors. I'm pretty sure the Rockets are going to lose. It could be in 7. I believe they're going to lose in Game 6, but could go to 7. And the Rockets could win. Who knows? But I'm pretty confident in the Warriors winning. So the next series should be Timberwolves and the Warriors, which should be fun because Ant said in an interview, I think last year or a couple months ago, I don't remember, that he wanted the Warriors. So that will be a good series, and I expect the Wolves to beat the Warriors as well. So I'm really excited to see OKC and the Timberwolves. Boy, that is not a sexy-sounding series on paper, just based off the Minnesota versus Oklahoma. But if you're a Hoops fan, that's going to be a good matchup. So I'm excited to see that. But since we're pushing agendas and we're talking about the young people in the league, man, since we're here, Ant's cool. Ant's one of my favorite players. And, I want to start making a collection of jerseys, so he might be one of my first jerseys I buy. But we got to talk about the next GOAT, man. The next GOAT's Wemby, man. I'm sorry, man. It's going to happen. He's going to be the greatest. He might even be the best to do it when everything's said and done. That's how I'm feeling. That's how I'm feeling about the French phenom, man. He might be the greatest to ever do it when I'm done. I told y'all I'm an agenda pusher. Now, some of it might be jokes, but it's mixed in with a whole lot of truth. I am an agenda pusher. Wemby, as the next GOAT, is my agenda. But to be in a more serious note about that, yeah, there's Wemby. I also think people really need to watch the Magic and the Pistons. Paolo Banchero and Cade Cunningham are 2 of the most disrespected number 1 overall picks I've ever seen in my life. They are so good, and nobody be paying them attention. It be pissing me off. And even like the NBA they don't market them well. They barely give them televised games. They're gonna be doing some damage. Honestly, quiet is kept. The Lakers weren't able to come back down 3-1, but Cade and them boys might. I don't know. The more I watch these games, I don't really have that much faith in New York. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm rooting for Cade to win against them anyway. So hopefully we'll see something great. You never know. But yeah, that's basically been it with me and the Hoops Talk. I hope you enjoyed the content, and I hope you agree with some of my opinions. Maybe you didn't. But whether you think I'm far behind or way ahead of the curve, I'm miles away. Thank you.